So we're getting right back into Chagiga. We're in Daf Bet Amud Bet or Beis Amud Beis, depending on your persuasion. Um, and so this is the Chagiga Amud Yomi Shir, not including Shabbat. We do an Amud a day. I try to keep it at around 20 minutes, not too long, not too short. And the B'ezrat Hashem, if we keep on pace, then we're gonna have a siyum under our belt by Rosh Hashanah, which is in 67 days. So let's get it. Let's go. So right now just to recap on our Mishnah, it was talking about how everybody is chayiv to go to Re'iyah, which is to go to Harabait during the Shalosh Regalim, chutz me, except for, and he gives a list. And now we're going to talk about 3 items on that list, which are grouped together. It is at the 2 dots near the top of the page. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pages from 8 lines from the top, if I'm not mistaken. At the 2 dots, chutz mecheresh, shote, v'katan. Except for a cheresh, which we're going to define what that means. A shote is a deranged person, a crazy person, and a katan, a minor. So then the Gemara writes, it says, Kitane mecheresh dumya deshote v'katan. The Gemara groups together the 3. The Gemara groups with a cheresh, with a deranged person, a crazy person, and a minor. Because why? Ma shote v'katan delav b'nei dea. Just like a deranged person and a minor, they're not mentally competent. Av cheresh delav bardea. So too, somebody who's considered cheresh is not considered competent. V'kamash malan keditna. And the Mishnah teaches us that which we learned this in a Mishnah over in Truma. It says cheresh shedibru chachamim b'chol makom. Whenever chachamim say cheresh, according to this opinion, in any situation, in any place, it's talking about she'eino shomea ve'eino medaber. It's talking about somebody who does not hear or speak. Somebody is both deaf, meaning cannot hear, and mute, cannot speak. That is considered a cheresh. We're defining our term cheresh. But this implies it's somebody who can speak but does not hear. Or somebody who can hear but cannot speak, that person is chayav. So meaning if you can't do both, you can't hear and you cannot speak, then you're pater from everything. But if you can speak but cannot hear, or you could hear but cannot speak, you could do one of them, then you're chayav, because you're considered mentally competent. Now Rashi discusses how somebody could be deaf but can still speak, and Rashi says that it's if somebody is in a situation where somebody is born completely healthy, they can hear totally well, to the point where they learn how to speak, and then when they know how to speak already, they become deaf. That's how you get a situation where somebody is deaf but can speak, not mute. Somebody who's deaf and cannot speak. That's what Rashi says. That's how that situation comes about. And then the Gemara talks about a Braita. The Braita says that Tanina leha the Tanu the Tanu the Rabbanan, and we learned this in a Braita. Hamidaber ve'eno shomea zeu cheresh. Somebody who does not. So in a Braita we learn that somebody who speaks but does not hear, that is considered a cheresh. So now we're defining terms in this Braita, saying that somebody who can hear but cannot speak, who cannot speak but can hear, is a cheresh. Somebody who can speak but cannot hear, somebody who cannot speak but can hear is an ilan. Somebody who cannot hear but can speak is a cheresh, according to this Braita. Sorry for the confusion. Both the elaim, somebody who cannot speak and the cheresh, somebody who cannot hear, they're both considered mentally competent and they're chayav in everything, just like what it says in our Mishnah, or just like the conclusion we just made based on the Mishnah and Truma. But then the Gemara talks about, it asks, how do we know? What's the source of this Breita that it's saying that an Elam is somebody who cannot speak but can hear, and a Cheresh is somebody who cannot hear but can speak? How do we know? It says, and what evidence do we have? Where do we know that one who speaks but cannot hear is called a cheresh, or shomea ve'eno medaber zeu ilam, or somebody who can hear but cannot speak is called an ilam? How do we know that? That's what those words mean. So the Gemara answers. It says in Tehillim, it says dichtiv ve'ani kecheresh, I am like a cheresh, lo eshma, I cannot hear. Uch ilam lo pitach lo yiftach piv, or I'm like Elam who will not open his mouth. I will not speak. So David Melech is saying, he's defining our terms for us, saying, I am a cheresh, I do not hear, and I'm an Elam, I do not speak. And that's how we define our terms. And then our Gemara even gives an alternative source for Elam. It says, ve'ibait ema, or if you prefer to say, Kida'amre inche, there's a saying, there's an aphorism, there's a saying that the people are saying, which is what is that Elam stands for. Elam is ishtakel mi lule. It's Elam, ishtakel mi elama mi mule, which literally means his speech was taken away. So you're saying you could either use the source from David HaMelech that says that David HaMelech says that I'm cheresh, I do not hear, and I'm Elam, I do not speak, defining our terms. Or if you're not satisfied with Elam, it gives us another source, which is that Elam stands for ishtakel milule. Which is his words were taken away. Milule, milim, words were taken away. Then the Gemara talks about the Mishnah and Truma even more. It says, Medaber ve'eno shomea, somebody who speaks but cannot hear. Shomea ve'eno medaber, somebody who hears but cannot speak. It says in Truma, chayav, he's chayav. But we just were discussing that if one, that just like we said, but just like we said, somebody who could do either one or the other, they're chayavim. If you could hear but cannot speak, or if you can speak but cannot hear, you're chayav because you're mentally competent. V'hatanya, but it is taught otherwise in a different Breita. It says medaber ve'eno shomea. It says in a different Breita, somebody who speaks but cannot hear, shomea ve'eno medaber, or somebody who hears but cannot speak, pater, is exempt from going to the courtyards. So knew what? In one source in the Mishnah in Truma, it talks about how if you could do one or the other, you're chayav. But now we have a Breita which is telling us that if you could do one or the other, you're pater. What's the deal? Why is it this contradiction? The Gemara answers. The Gemara says, Amar Ravina ve'itma Rava. Ravina said, and some people say that it was in the name of Rava. So it's either Ravina or Rava. We're not sure. It says, Chusri michasra v'hachikatane. He says that the texts that we're dealing with are lacking, meaning it's missing some words. Now, a lot of people are skeptical when people say that when the Rabbanim say that it's missing words. It's a little too convenient. But I heard something beautiful. Rav Yoni Levin from Woodmere, he was saying something beautiful, that he says that Chazal say that all of Mishnah and the Braitas and the Gemara, they were all Torah Sheba'al Peh. They were all memorized. They were all said by heart. And a method they would use to remember everything was they would put all of these things to song. And so sometimes they would need to take words away in order for it to fit the rhythm of the song for that Mishnah, for that Breita. So the Rabbanim would take words out in order for it to fit the song, under the assumption that when they're learning the songs, they would be able to deduce the extra words that were taken away. So it's not like they were forgotten or there was a mistake that was made. It's that they were expressly taken out in order for it to be easier to memorize. And then when we come back and we learn it ourselves, we rely on our rabbanim in order to fill in the blanks that the rabbis put in. It's not convenient, and it's not a forgetting of Torah, so to speak. So, anyways, back to our Gemara. It says that Ravina/Rava says that we're missing some words here. There's some blanks that we need to fill, and that will save that will get rid of the contradiction. He says that Hakol Chayvin B'Re'iyah V'Simcha. So now we're going to get the full story. It says the real story is everybody is chayav bere'iyah uvesimcha. Everybody is chayav in re'iyah, in seeing, uvesimcha, and rejoicing and being happy. Chutz mecheresh hamedaber ve'eno shomea ve'eno medaber. Except a cheresh who speaks but cannot hear, and who hears but cannot speak. Shepatur min hariyah, who is patur from seeing, from appearing. Ve'afal pi shepatur min hariyah. But even though the cheresh is in the person who can speak but cannot hear, and the person who hears but cannot speak, they are patur from re'iyah, from appearing. Chayav b'simcha. They're chayavim in rejoicing. They're chayavim in being happy. And giving the simcha offerings, which is the shlamim. However, one who neither hears nor speaks, v'shota v'katan, and a crazy person, a deranged person, and a katan, and a minor. Pater af min simcha is exempt also from the simcha, meaning they're exempt from the re'iyah, from the appearing, and from the simcha, and from rejoicing. Ho'il u'pturim mikol mitzvot ha'amurot b'Torah. Since they're considered mentally incompetent individuals, and because of this, they are exempt from all commandments in the Torah. So then the Gemara adduces support for this. Now the Gemara supports this reading of this Mishnah on Braita. Tanya nami hachi. It was also taught in the Braita. Hakol chayvin b're'iyah v'simcha. Everybody is obligated in both the mitzvot of appearing and rejoicing, re'iyah and simcha. Chutz mecheresh hamidaber ve'eno shomea, shomea ve'eno medaber. Except for a cheresh, somebody who can't do both, or somebody who can hear but cannot speak, or somebody who can speak but cannot hear. Sheputr min re'iyah, who are patur from re'iyah, from appearing. Ve'afal pi shepatur min re'iyah, but even though they are patur from re'iyah, from the seeing, chayav b'simcha. We're going to go a little into the next page, not a lot. Chayav v'simcha, they're still chayav in rejoicing. Ve'ed she'ino shomea v'lo medaber. However, one who neither hears nor speaks, shota v'katan, somebody who's deranged, crazy, v'katan, or a minor, potrin af mina simcha, are also exempt from the simcha. Ho'il ufturin mikol mitzvot amrut b'Torah, because they are patur from every mitzvah in the Torah. So we're going to end it there. I know it's not the end of a sugya, there's no two dots, but that's the end of that idea, and then we'll recap at the beginning of tomorrow's shir and continue on. Chazak Baruch.